If you were a giant and standing in Taiwan, behind you is China, while to your left are the two Korean nations and Japan. However, directly in front of you is one of the locations hiding the most mysteries, the Mariana Trench. Scientists have been fascinated by this location due to the abundance of terrifying things. Mariana Trench is a gift that keeps giving because we are discovering more and more scary things. However, in this video, we bring you the new terrifying discoveries scientists have just made in the Mariana Trench and underwater elsewhere. What is an oceanic trench? An oceanic trench is a long and narrow depression in the ocean floor. These trenches are considered the deepest part of the ocean floor, occurring at the boundary between convergent plates and lithospheric plates. These plates slowly move toward each other at distances that range from a few millimeters per year to more than 10 centimeters. The trench is created when one of the plates slides below the lithospheric slab. Generally, oceanic trenches reach between 1.9 and 2.5 miles below the nearby ocean floor. This video takes a look at some of the deepest oceanic trenches in the world. Every ocean is deep and mysterious in its own way, but compared to the Mariana Trench, some parts of the ocean look like the shallow end of a pool. The Mariana Trench, sometimes called Marianas Trench, found in the western Pacific Ocean, is the deepest part located in any ocean. It is a 1,580-mile crescent-shaped section in the crust of the Earth. The truly impressive part of the Mariana Trench has nothing to do with its length and everything to do with its depth. Although it hasn't been well explored because of the challenges associated with going that deep, the trench goes at least 36,070 feet deep, as measured with sound pulses sent through the ocean during a 2010 survey by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. Because Guam is a U.S. territory and the 50 northern Mariana Islands are a U.S. Commonwealth, the United States has jurisdiction over the Mariana Trench. In 2009, President George W. Bush established the Mariana Trench Marine National Monument, which created a protected marine reserve for the approximately 195,000 square miles or 506,000 square kilometers of sea floor and waters surrounding the remote islands. It includes most of the Mariana Trench, 21 underwater volcanoes, and areas around 3 islands. How did the Mariana Trench form? The Mariana Trench was created by the process that occurs in a subduction zone, where two massive slabs of oceanic crust collide. At a subduction zone, one piece of oceanic crust is pushed and pulled underneath the other, sinking into the Earth's mantle, the layer under the crust. Where the two pieces of crust intersect, a deep trench forms above the bend in the sinking crust. In this case, the Pacific Ocean crust is bending below the Philippine crust. The Pacific crust, also called a tectonic plate, is about 180 million years old where it dives into the trench. The Philippine plate is younger and smaller than the Pacific plate. At subduction zones, the cold, dense crust sinks back into the mantle and is destroyed. However, as deep as the trench is, it is not the spot closest to the center of Earth. Because the planet bulges at the equator, the radius at the poles is about 16 miles or 25 kilometers less than the radius at the equator, so parts of the Arctic Ocean seabed are closer to the Earth's center than the Challenger Deep. The crushing water pressure on the floor of the trench is more than 8 tons per square inch, or 703 kilograms per square meter. This is more than 1,000 times the pressure felt at sea level, or the equivalent of having 50 jumbo jets piled on top of a person. Now let us start these scary discoveries of the Mariana Trench with an auditory one. Scientists from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory placed a titanium-encased hydrophone, a device which records sounds on the deepest part of the ocean floor, the Pacific Ocean's Mariana Trench. But what did they hear? The device recorded the sounds in the ocean over a period of 3 weeks, and scientists were shocked at what they heard. You would think that the deepest part of the ocean would be one of the quietest places on Earth. Yet there really is almost constant noise from both natural and man-made sources. The ambient sound field at Challenger Deep is dominated by the sound of earthquakes both near and far, as well as the distinct moans of baleen whales and the overwhelming clamor of a Category 4 typhoon that just happened to pass overhead. There was also a lot of noise from ship traffic identifiable by the clear sound pattern the ship propellers make when they pass by. It is like sending a deep space probe to the outer solar system. We're sending out a deep ocean probe to the unknown reaches of inner space. After analyzing the sounds, the scientists were able to separate the natural noise from the man-made noise. Scientists recorded a loud magnitude 5.0 earthquake that took place at a depth of about 10 kilometers or more than 6 miles in the nearby ocean crust. Since the hydrophone was at 11 kilometers, it actually was below the earthquake, which is really an unusual experience. The sound of the typhoon was also dramatic, although the cacophony from big storms tends to be spread out and elevates the overall noise for a period of days. After launching countless rockets to explore space, NASA is turning its attention to the deepest depth of the ocean. But what lies at the depth of the ocean, and what will NASA see as it descends deeper into the ocean? The ocean is divided into different zones, and it gets scarier the deeper we go into the zones. The surface layer of the ocean is the epipelagic zone. This goes from the surface down to 200 meters or 656 feet. This zone is also called the sunlight zone because you can still see thanks to the light from the sun. Also, the water here is not so cold thanks to the heat from the sun. Light and heat go hand in hand. The next zone is the mesopelagic zone, extending from 200 meters or 656 feet to 1,000 meters or 3,281 feet. This zone is called the twilight zone or the mid-water zone. The light here has become very faint, and you'll start to see bioluminescent creatures around you. The water here, while still not so cold, turns deep blue or black. Also, because of the lack of sunlight, you won't see plant life because photosynthesis is impossible. You will also start to notice bizarre fishes swimming around you. Anglerfish are an example of bioluminescent deep-sea mesopelagic animals. These strange-looking fish have sharp teeth and a glowing bulb of flesh that extends from their dorsal spine. This glowing light attracts prey that is grateful for the illumination directly into the mouth of the anglerfish. However, you have barely scratched the surface of what the deep ocean offers. Next is the bathypelagic zone, also known as the midnight zone or the dark zone. This zone goes from 1,000 meters (3,281 feet) to 4,000 meters or 13,124 feet. Here, any animal that wants to see must produce its own light. The water pressure is also massive at this level, reaching 5,850 pounds per square inch. Despite the pressure, a surprisingly large number of creatures can be found here. Sperm whales regularly dive down to this level to look for food. You will notice that most of the animals surrounding you are black or red because of the lack of light. The animals here are even scarier, like the deep-sea anglerfish, famous for their gaping, tooth-filled mouths. Anglerfish can vary in length from a few inches to over 3 feet. You will also encounter the snake dragonfish that sees its prey with the aid of bioluminescence. Other deep-sea creatures try their best to avoid the snake dragonfish because of its reputation as a fierce predator. You may also be freaked out by the gulper eel, a large gaping mouth 11 times the volume of its entire body that can easily swallow prey much larger than itself. It has a light organ at the end of its tail believed to be used to attract prey, but very little research is being carried out on the elusive gulper eel because who wants to go down there? After passing the bathypelagic zone, it is now time to face the abyssopelagic zone, also known as the abyssal zone or simply the abyss. This covers from 4,000 meters or 13,124 feet to 6,000 meters or 19,686 feet. The name actually has a Greek origin that means no bottom. The water temperature here is near freezing and there is virtually no light. Very few creatures can survive at these crushing depths. Most of them are invertebrates such as basket stars and tiny squids. 3/4 of the ocean floor lies within this zone. The deepest fish ever discovered was found in the Puerto Rico Trench at a depth of 27,460 feet or 8,372 meters. Other animals inhabiting the abyssopelagic zone include basket stars, sea pigs, and sea spiders. Basket stars are echinoderms with an arm span larger than 25 centimeters living on the ocean floor or another animal. They subsist on detritus floating down from above. Like many echinoderms, they can lose an arm and make no fuss because it will grow back. The sea pig is another echinoderm that looks like an ugly sea cucumber and can consume mud like an earthworm. Beyond the abyssopelagic zone is the forbidding hadal-pelagic zone. This layer goes from 6,000 meters or 19,686 feet to the bottom of the deepest parts of the ocean. The deepest point in the ocean is located in the Mariana Trench off the coast of Japan at 35,797 feet or 10,911 meters. The water temperature here is just above freezing, and you will be under a pressure of about 8 tons per square inch. That is like having 48 Boeing 747 jets pressing down on you. However, despite this extreme temperature and pressure, you will still find life here, including invertebrates like starfish and tube worms. So why is NASA exploring the ocean depth? The reason is literally out of this world. It is actually a practice run for the agency. The US Space Agency is investigating the deep ocean to search for clues about what oceans on other planets could look like and push the limits of science and technology in one of the most extreme environments on our planet. NASA says our oceans are incredibly similar to other oceans found on other planets in the solar system. So by understanding the deep ocean on Earth, they may get clues on where to start searching for extraterrestrial life or alien life. NASA is particularly interested in the hadal-pelagic zone. However, only a few underwater vehicles can survive at that depth. In fact, some vehicles attempting to go that far have collapsed under the enormous pressure down there. So NASA has set out to build a tough-as-nails autonomous vehicle called Orpheus. Orpheus in Greek mythology traveled to the underworld and returned. Orpheus uses many of the features on NASA's Perseverance Mars rover, especially the navigation technologies. It is fitted with highly sensitive cameras to identify rock formations, shells, and other features on the ocean floor and create three-dimensional maps dotted with landmarks, or more appropriately, seabed marks. This allows the robot to find its way and recognize places it has already been. It will also reveal more about the biodiversity of the harsh environment. By discovering the organisms living at such huge depths, scientists can pinpoint the type of organisms to look for on other planets or space objects. For example, under the icy surface of Jupiter's moon Europa is a saltwater ocean between 40 and 100 miles deep, or 60 to 150 kilometers. The moon contains twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans combined. But sunlight doesn't penetrate below Europa's thick ice sheet crisscrossed by cracks and fractures, and underneath the icy crust, the pressure is comparable to the hadal-pelagic zone. So any robot that can survive in the hadal-pelagic zone will be able to do so on Europa, more than 628 million kilometers or 390 million miles away. You have heard of deadly sharks with sharp teeth that can cause serious damage. While you must do your best to avoid coming near one, what about the largest shark ever? That title goes to the Megalodon. It is not just the biggest shark, it is the biggest fish ever. This fish can grow to between 15 and 18 meters. This is 3 times longer than the largest recorded great white shark. For comparison, an average human is about 1.8 meters. Each tooth on the Megalodon measures 18 centimeters. In fact, the shark got its name from the teeth, as Megalodon means large tooth. This scary shark eats other large fishes, including whales. As a big fish, it has a huge appetite and must consume lots of food on a daily basis. When this monster fish opens its jaws, the space can span 2.7 by 3.4 meters wide, big enough to swallow 2 adult people side by side easily. However, you need not fear being snatched by a Megalodon because the last one died off about 3.6 million years ago. But of course, nobody can tell with certainty the modern whereabouts of these monster sharks because just 5% of the world's ocean has been explored. Now, can you believe human-made plastic can make its way to the depths of the Mariana Trench and also end up inside a living organism? Researchers have uncovered the presence of plastic in a previously unknown species of deep-sea amphipods, which was discovered in the Mariana Trench, the deepest trench in the world. The researchers officially named the species Erythenes plasticus in reference to the plastic it has ingested. The tiny Erythenes plasticus was discovered nearly 7 kilometers below sea level in the Pacific Ocean by scientists from Newcastle University. Alan Jamieson, head of the research mission, noted that we're now at the point where we are looking at a new species from an unexplored habitat and it's already contaminated with plastic. PhD student Johanna Weston, who was part of the research team, said there was a microfiber inside one of the 4 specimens of Eurythenes plasticus examined. They had found polyethylene terephthalate, PET, a substance found in a variety of commonly used household items such as water bottles or workout clothes. The newly discovered species shows how far-reaching the consequences of our inadequate handling of plastic waste truly is. There are species living in the deepest, most remote places on Earth which have already ingested plastic before they are even known about by humankind. Plastics are in the air that we breathe, in the water that we drink, and now also in animals that live far away from human civilization. The next discovery is still shark-related, but will take you 1,300 meters deep into the ocean because this is where goblin sharks live. The species is noted for its intimidating appearance and its ability to unhinge its jaws when feeding completely. Scientists believe goblin sharks only come near the surface at night and spend most of their lives in the dark. The most conspicuous things on the goblin shark are the long snout called a rostrum and the teeth. The rostrum is covered with special organs that help these sharks locate prey in the low light of their preferred habitat by sensing the electric field created by other fishes. The teeth are long and scraggly, and the goblin shark is one of the very few species of shark whose teeth are visible when the mouth is fully closed. Basically, the goblin shark cannot fit all its teeth into its mouth. When hunting, goblin sharks identify prey below their sensitive rostrum. They then extend their jaws far from their mouths to grasp what they find. When feeding in this manner, they look more like something out of an alien movie than a shark. Goblin sharks are very difficult to capture on camera and have been rarely filmed. Now, do you care for an alien-looking organism living inside the ocean? You will find one in the Mariana Trench, where scientists have discovered a new species of snailfish that swims at depths of up to 5 miles in the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the world's oceans. It's been named the Mariana snailfish, or Pseudolepris swirei, and lives a rather pleasant and happy life underneath 8,000 meters of sea, according to the scientists who found it. The happy life is surprising because, at this depth, the pressure is so great that it is similar to having an elephant standing on your thumb. How this creature manages to survive these intense pressures, which makes the deep sea as inhospitable to most life forms as outer space, continues to baffle scientists. But this fella is not only surviving, but is the top predator and has little competition for prey. Snailfishes have adapted to go deeper than other fish and can live in the deep trenches. Here they are free of predators, and the funnel shape of the trench means there's much more food. There are lots of invertebrate prey, and the snailfish are the top predator. They're active and look very well fed. Snailfish are quite sociable beasties and hang around in large groups, feasting on small crustaceans and shrimp. And scary fishes, and this next one can definitely top the list of nightmare generators. When it opens its mouth, it can be as wide as the body of the fish itself. This is the sarcastic fringehead, found in depths of hundreds of feet in the deep. This big-mouthed fish has an attitude that matches its name. It is fiercely territorial and fights with a kiss. If you're interested in meeting this bizarre fish, you can find it in the temperate coastal waters of California and Mexico's Baja California. You will find them living out in their ocean-floor dens, which can be burrows, empty shells, or even discarded plastic bottles. Males reverse in bottom first, then defend their territories from other sarcastic fringeheads by facing off by slamming their huge open mouths together or kissing. The fish's laterally splayed jawbones and sail-like cheek membranes reveal a purple tongue, a double row of teeth, and a fluorescent yellow mouth rim. When they duel, it is basically a contest of who's got the biggest mouth. The victor bags the best den and a chance to mate. But its fighting days are not over yet, because after the female lays thousands of eggs in the prize location and the male has fertilized them, he continues to defend this offspring with yet more oral aggression. The name fringehead refers to the floppy fronds of tissue that fall over the fish's eyes, while the term sarcastic is thought either to describe the animal's sardonic close-mouth expression or to derive from the Greek word sarkazin, which means to tear flesh. Either way, the only thing that's cutting about this fish is its set of teeth. Of all the things to discover, fish may look good on your dinner plate and taste great in your mouth, but some of them can be downright scary, like the barrel-eye fish with a transparent head. Yes, only the head is transparent, as the rest of the body is as solid as it could get. Again, this fish will take us deep into the ocean, about 600 to 800 meters, because that's where it prefers to live. The barrel-eye fish has two dark spots at the front that resemble eyes, but they're actually its olfactory organs. The green glowing orbs clearly visible through the transparent head are the eyes. If it needs to look for prey above it, this fish can rotate the eyes upwards, but when it wants to see the food it's eating, it rotates the eyes forward. Barrel-eye fish can grow up to 15 centimeters in size. You can find them from the Bering Sea to Baja California to Japan, where it hovers below the tentacles of other sea creatures to steal their food, such as zooplankton and crustaceans. Next is a fish that has taken the crown of the ugliest fish in the ocean, and it is not just unsightly, it is nightmare-inducing ugly. Social media users even voted it the ugliest animal, showing the depth of their revulsion for this fish, known as the blobfish. What is baffling about the blobfish is that underwater, it could pass for an ordinary fish, but the moment you bring it above water, it assumes its ugly appearance. This is because in its typical habitat, between 600 and 1200 meters, the high pressure keeps it in shape, but on the surface, the pressure of the water reduces, causing the blobfish to lose its shape. The blobfish does not even have bones or much muscle mass, but of course it doesn't need either because the crushing pressure at the bottom of the ocean where it hangs out gives it all the support it needs. It will feed on mollusks and crabs not quick enough to escape. There is a lot scientists don't know about these ugly fish because they live so deep in the water. Also, they don't have much flavor, so we don't eat them. From one scary organism we go to another, although this animal is kind of cute. The Dumbo octopus, also known as Grympoteuthis, is a genus of pelagic umbrella octopuses. The name originates from the creature's resemblance to the character of Dumbo from the 1941 Disney film of the same name. Take the two large fins, one on either side of the mantle that protrude like ears, add in the octopus's small size, relatively short arms, bell-shaped body, pale coloring, and tendency to hover over the sea floor, and you've got a cephalopod that's often called the cutest octopus in the world. The Dumbo octopus was first discovered around 1883, but the first specimen was not seen until the 1990s, after the first deep-sea submersible vessels were invented. The Dumbo octopus is small compared to other octopods, averaging between 20 and 30 centimeters. The octopus's gelatinous body allows it to exist at the highly pressured depths of up to 13,000 feet. The extreme pressure keeps its body together, and if brought to the surface, its body would not be able to work correctly, so it's basically sentenced to a lifetime in the deep ocean. They feed on snails, worms, and other creatures. They hoover up from the ocean floor and propel themselves through the water by flapping their strong fins, not by expelling water forcefully from their siphons as other octopuses do. Webbing between their arms aids them in swimming. We take a break from fish for the next discovery, but it is no less scary. If you fear spiders, as many people do, imagine the horror of finding one staring at you deep in the ocean. And it can get really big, reaching the size of a chihuahua. This is the giant Antarctic sea spider. This spider is an example of gigantism, wherein an animal grows unusually large due to a lack of predators and other factors that would limit its size. It can grow to 30 centimeters in diameter, dwarfing the European sea spider that is just a few centimeters long. You will find Antarctic sea spiders all the way along the coast of Antarctica, but you must be ready to dive to depths of more than 1,800 meters. Also, while they certainly look like a spider, Antarctic sea spiders are no spiders at all. They're not crustaceans either. Rather, they're marine arthropods that belong to the sea spider's family Pycnogonidae. Sometimes referred to as Pantopida, meaning all legs, sea spiders can have between 4 to 6 pair of legs depending on the species, but Antarctic sea spiders boast 5 pairs. The Antarctic spider is nothing but legs because there isn't much more to it. It also possesses a proboscis that it uses to suck the insides out of unfortunate worms, jellyfish, sponges, and other prey with soft bodies. It doesn't even have a special organ for breathing, as it respires through cuticle walls. And one more thing about the Antarctic sea spider, it is completely harmless. All it does is roam the ocean floor for food or a mate. Things to discover underwater you would probably not expect to find a river. But that was exactly what scientists found under the Black Sea. Hiding there for ages is a river with currents of water about 350 times greater than the River Thames. In fact, if this undersea river were to be on the surface, it would be the world's 6th largest by volume of water. The undersea river, which is up to 115 feet deep in some places, even has rapids and waterfalls, much like the rivers on the land. The scientists associated with the University of Leeds used a robotic submarine to study a deep channel that had been found on the seabed and found a river of highly salty water flowing along the deep channel at the bottom of the Black Sea, creating riverbanks and floodplains much like a river found on land. The water in the undersea channels is denser than the surrounding seawater due to the higher salinity and because it's carrying lots of sediment. It goes down the sea shelf and out into the abyssal plain much like a river on land. The abyssal plains of our oceans are like the deserts of the marine world, but these channels can deliver nutrients and ingredients needed for life out over these deserts. Scientists are interested in this undersea river because of its importance. It's one of the arteries providing life to the sea. One key difference between this undersea river and other conventional rivers is that the water in the former spirals in the opposite direction of the latter when flowing around a bend. So where does the water in this undersea river come from? Scientists have traced it to the Bosporus Strait and all the way up to the Mediterranean. The water at the source is saltier and denser than that at the end of the river. Rocks are commonplace, and you will find tons of them everywhere you go. However, when you dive to the bottom of a lake and find a set of rocks that appear to be carefully arranged on top of one another, as a scientist, you start to ask questions. That is the case with the underwater rocks found inside MacDonald Lake in Ontario. Sadly, none of the questions have been answered. The discovery was made by divers participating in a unique submarine project at the acclaimed Halliburton Forest and Wildlife Reserve. At first, divers who examined the puzzling underwater structure felt it was a geological formation, but more studies revealed it was an artificial object. The puzzling stone structures rest at 12 meters or 40 feet below the surface. It consists of a massive 1,000 pounds or 453 kilograms elongated rock with an almost entirely level surface resting on 7 baseball-sized stones, which in turn sits on a huge several thousand-pound slab on top of a ledge. Geologists and archaeologists were stumped by the ancient structure's straight edges and lack of roundness. It seemed the stone could not be one of the rocks scoured by glaciers. An underwater archaeologist who examined the structure took photos of the stone. He concluded that the existence of 3 shims was proof that the assembly of now 7 rocks was the result of human activity and not a fluke of nature. But just to convince themselves, Halliburton Forest approached a statistician to determine the probability of 7 rocks falling on top of each other, creating a structure. The statistician reported that even 4 rocks creating a natural structure were almost unattainable, so the probability of 7 rocks hitting at the right time and place were virtually impossible. So if these rocks were placed by a lost civilization thousands of years ago, who were they? Where did they come from and what happened to them? And most importantly, why did they arrange the rocks? We might never find the answers. How about a discovery underwater that is worth about $17 billion? If only you could make such a discovery, you are set for life, right? Well, not in the case of the San Jose shipwreck. In fact, it has spawned the mother of all legal battles as the tussle of who claims ownership rages on. It all started in 1708 when the San Jose, 45-meter-long Spanish galleon, armed with 64 cannons, a crew of more than 600, and a cargo of millions of gold and silver coins, emeralds, and other treasures, burst into flames and sank. This occurred off the coast of Cartagena, Colombia, and it was the aftermath of a battle with a British squadron. The fight was part of the War of Spanish Succession, a 13-year conflict that involved most of the powers of Western Europe. Today, the San Jose is the subject of a very different kind of international dispute. This particular intrigue involves thorny questions of international law, national sovereignty, and the legacy of colonialism. For more than 300 years, the sunk, treasure-laden galleon was like a myth among treasure hunters. In fact, it was the holy grail of treasure hunting. The San Jose has been dubbed the mother of all shipwrecks, and its legend looms large in Colombian culture. It was the inspiration for the novel Love in the Time of Cholera by Colombia's most famous writer. The unique thing about San Jose, among other shipwrecks, is the sheer value of the lost treasure. The precious cargo could include even gold that had not yet been melted and precious coins. It could also hold a collection of rare Ming Dynasty porcelain from China. This month, the Colombian Navy released new footage of the stunningly well-preserved San Jose, resting at a depth of more than 600 meters. This film included tantalizing images of coins, pottery, and porcelain cups. The big question that has not been answered is, who owns the treasures of San Jose? Contenders include the Colombian government itself, which says that any ship found in its waters is part of its national heritage. There is also Spain, which wants to claim the rights to what was its vessel or a ship of state under international law. It is threatening to pursue the case to the United Nations, although it looks rather brazen as the loot originated at a time the country was plundering other nations under the guise of colonialism. Yet another party is the descendant of the indigenous people in South America from whom the cargo was originally taken. They are clamoring for the artifacts stolen from their ancestral land. Throw into the mix an American company that says it's being cheated out of its property because it signed a contract with the Colombian government that entitles it to half of the treasure from the sunk ship. What stops you from grabbing your diving gear and finding out for yourself about the amazing treasures of San Jose? The location is a closely guarded secret, and you will have to beat the Colombian Navy standing on guard. You probably know sound travels through water, but sometimes the sounds picked up by scientists' instruments are just terrifying and impossible to explain. Take, for example, the bloop sound. In 1997, NOAA hydrophones picked up one of the loudest sounds ever recorded off the southern coast of South America. It was named the bloop and was detected by two hydrophones separated by 3,000 miles or 4,800 kilometers. The vast distance traveled by the sound is not the only baffling thing about it. While it was similar to marine animal sounds in some ways, the volume was just too high to have been made by any sea creature known to science. In fact, because of the mystery surrounding this sound, some people have suggested it came from the Cthulhu, a fictional part octopus monster created by sci-fi writer H.P. Lovecraft in 1928. The only possible explanation, which scientists are not sure about, is that the bloop was the sound of a large iceberg fracturing. These ice quakes have been recorded in the Scotia Sea and sound very similar to the mystery 1997 bloop. If a cracking iceberg were the source, according to NOAA, it would have likely been floating between the Bransfield Strait and the Ross Sea of Antarctica, or perhaps at Cape Adare in East Antarctica. Have you seen icicles hanging from tree branches or eaves of buildings? There is a version that occupies the bottom of the sea, but is very deadly. Welcome to the world of brinicles, also known as icicles of death. Brinicles were discovered relatively recently, so scientists still have much to learn about these objects, but one of the most intriguing things about them is that they may make life possible on other planets or moons like Jupiter's Ganymede and Callisto. So where do brinicles come from? When sea ice forms in the Arctic and Antarctic, impurities like salt are forced out, which is why ice created from seawater isn't as salty as the water from which it's formed. As this salty water leaks from the sea ice, the surrounding water becomes more saline, lowering its freezing temperature and increasing its density. This prevents the water from freezing to the ice and causes it to sink. As the cold brine reaches warmer seawater below, the water freezes around it, creating the descending tube of ice known as a brinicle. Why are brinicles deadly? When this sea stalactite reaches the seabed, a web of ice forms and spreads across it. It freezes everything it touches, including any sea life it encounters. Any unfortunate sea creature, such as starfish and sea urchins, that is affected dies instantly. Anywhere there is an active or was an active brinicle is surrounded by small pools of brine, also known as black pools of death. You'll see the skeletons of many marine animals that wandered into them. Brinicles are quite rare and only a few humans have seen them in person. Footages of brinicles are not common either. Come along to Russia for the next underwater discovery that is scaring even seasoned scientists. For centuries, strange reports of a large underwater creature have come from people living near the remote Lake Lubinkia in Siberia. Now a team of scientists from the Russian Geographical Society reports they've found the skeletal remains of an animal that fits the description of the devil of Lake Lubinkia, according to the Siberian Times. The Russian research team that stumbled on the find was exploring the bottom of the lake to collect samples of water, plants, and animals. They did not bargain for the large jawbone and skeleton waiting for them. Even the lake itself has puzzled scientists for generations. For example, while other lakes in the region will freeze during the long Siberian winter, Lake Lubinkia doesn't. It maintains a near constant surface temperature of 36 degrees Fahrenheit or 2 degrees Celsius. Some experts have tried to explain this by claiming that an underground hot spring may warm the lake. The larger lake measures about 17 square miles or 45 square kilometers in area and has an average depth of 171 feet or 52 meters, but you can find spots as deep as 263 feet or 80 meters. By the way, this is not the first time some evidence of Lake Libinkia's devil has surfaced. In addition to local folklore, some scientists reported seeing a strange creature in the lake and in nearby Lake Vorota. Pyramids are popular relics of ancient civilizations, but you would expect pyramids to be firmly anchored on the surface of dry land, which is why scientists were flabbergasted to find one underwater. However, there is a bigger mystery surrounding this pyramid found off the coast of the Portuguese Azores Islands. When Navy crews were summoned after the discovery of this pyramid, one of the questions that ran through their mind was whether they had finally located the lost mythical city of Atlantis. The discovery was accidentally made by a local sailor, Diocleciano Silva, who was looking for good fishing grounds. He used digital scanning devices to help him locate the hidden pyramid, located between the islands of Terceira and São Miguel, the biggest island on the archipelago. This underwater pyramid is perfectly square, a testament to the dexterity of whoever built it. The pyramid is around 60 meters in height and has a base of about 8,000 square meters. It was found in an area of the Atlantic that has been covered by water for around 20,000 years, coinciding with the last great ice age of the Northern Hemisphere, where the glaciers started melting 2,000 years earlier. Experts estimate whoever was living there before the ice age was probably responsible for building the pyramid. Archaeologists from the Portuguese Association of Archaeological Research have found evidence that suggests humans did live in the Azores many thousands of years before the Portuguese discovered the group of islands in 1427. This suggests that an ancient civilization may have been there at the time to build this huge pyramid that is now underwater. People are eager to associate this pyramid with the lost city of Atlantis because of the similarities. In Greek mythology, the island of Atlantis sunk to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean after falling out of favor with the gods, which fits nicely with the current location of this pyramid. The first mention of this city was by Plato more than 2,300 years ago. However, the true purpose of this underwater pyramid has not been discovered, adding to the intrigue of who the builders were when they built the structure and how they got the skills and tools necessary to build. Let's hear which is your favorite in all these discoveries in the comments section below.